Every single person carries a dream deep inside their art. You know, that one specific dream that gives you a reason to wake up every single morning? It's literally the fuel for our daily lives. But I want you to think about your dream for just a second. Does every dream just magically come true easily? Probably not, right? True success stories, they rarely begin with all that glamour. They start with intense struggle. They start with failures. They start on those lonely nights when the whole world is fast asleep, but you're still awake, grinding for your dreams. Part 1, the cinematic struggle, or when the world says impossible. So let's dive into this. Every great life story actually mirrors a classic 3-act movie structure. Act 1, that's where you establish that big dream. Then comes Act 2, the conflict. This is where you face those insurmountable obstacles, that dark night of the soul where circumstances are practically begging you to stop. But without that intense conflict, without that struggle, you never reach Act 3, the ultimate resolution. People might tell you it's impossible, but without this pushback, there's just no emotional depth to your story. And we're not just talking about fictional movie characters here. These are real people who lived through some extreme Act 2 conflicts. Take Chris Gardner, for example. He actually lived in homeless shelters with his young son. Steve Harvey? He lived in his car for 3 whole years just trying to make it as a comedian. Oprah Winfrey faced teen homelessness. They faced the absolute hardest of times. But history proves that the people who end up changing the world are the exact same ones who point-blank refuse to accept the word impossible. Moving on to Section 2, the psychology of success and building the mindset to survive. So, how exactly do they survive those lowest moments? Well, it starts with grit. Grit is defined as sustained passion and perseverance toward long-term goals. Think of it as your psychological stamina. It's what keeps a dreamer pushing forward, putting in that deliberate practice day after day, even when progress feels, honestly, agonizingly slow. But here's the thing. Grit alone isn't quite enough. You also absolutely need resilience. This is defined as the dynamic capacity to adapt positively and recover effectively when you're hit with significant stress or hardship. So, if grit is your psychological stamina, you can think of resilience as your psychological flexibility. Now, the really crucial point here is that when you combine the stamina of grit with the flexibility of resilience, they work together to build what's called self-efficacy. That's the firm belief in your own capability to organize and execute whatever actions are needed to manage prospective situations. Basically, it's that inner voice that makes you look at a massive, terrifying obstacle and say, okay, I can handle this. This all ties perfectly into psychologist Carol Dweck's famous research on mindsets. On one hand, a fixed mindset completely avoids challenges, but a growth mindset, it actively embraces them. Remember, every fall teaches you something new. Every failure is just a step towards success. Highly successful people literally redefine failure. They know that every single struggle just makes them so much stronger than they were before. Section 3, the power of inner dialogue and architecting your resilience. So, how do we actually build this mindset? Well, it starts with the exact words we speak to ourselves. And what's really fascinating here is that scientific studies show positive self-talk, like telling yourself, I can do this, provides a massive boost for cognitive tasks. But paradoxically, negative self-talk, or, self-criticism, can actually heighten your alertness and execution in physical or motor tasks. Crazy, right? It means you can strategically tailor your inner dialogue depending on the exact challenge you're facing. And once you really master that inner dialogue, you unlock this brilliant ancient Stoic philosophy. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. There's this old story where a king placed a massive boulder in the middle of a road. The person who eventually succeeded didn't just complain about it. They used a branch as a lever, moved the rock out of the way, and found a bag of gold hidden right underneath it. The struggle wasn't blocking the journey. The struggle literally was the journey. Which brings us to Section 4, your story, the climax and resolution. If you can just hold on to that grit, you enter what we call the positive transformation arc. First, you face your limitations and fears. Then, you're forced to make incredibly difficult choices through some extreme adversity. But finally, step 3, you transform into a highly capable hero. Embracing that struggle is exactly what transforms you into the hero of your own life. Steve Jobs famously said, "Stay hungry, stay foolish."
That hunger, that courage to maintain your passion and take huge risks, that is exactly what separates those who actually succeed from those who merely dream. Because a day inevitably comes when the very people who used to doubt your abilities will be the exact same ones eagerly telling your success story to everyone else.
Always remember this. Dreams come with a price, and that price is hard work. But for those who are willing to pay it, the whole world eventually recognizes them. So whatever you're going through right now, never give up. Your story isn't over yet.